everybody, and welcome back to our musical episode. I can see clearly now the beer's flowing. Gone. Yes, we are singing happy, wonderful songs on this musical episode so that Vecna doesn't come and hunt us down during these dark, dark times that we live in. As promised, in the spirit of Morbius 2, Too Fast, Too Morbius, and also Joker 2, which for some reason Joker 2 is going to be a musical. We're going to do a musical.
Joker 2 is going to be a musical? Are you joking?
We'll get to that part in a minute. Yes. No, I'm not joking.
Oh my. I thought the musical joke was just from Vecna and
breaking
The Boys.
News, Joker 2 is actually going to be a musical with Lady Gaga in talks to play as Harley Quinn.
You're joking.
I'm dead serious with you right now. Like this is a real thing.
Why is so serious?
This is a real thing. So, but yes,
I'm all excited.
Welcome to the episode where we have a really great guest on this second half of our episode. The folks from Wookiepedia are going to be joining us. And if you are a Star Wars fan, which a lot of us are, a lot of us aren't, who knows anymore? There's a lot of discourse out there. You'll know that they are the one-stop shop for what is canon, what is not canon, when did things take place, when did anything happen in any chronological order, who is this character? They make sure that we know that. So they will be on the second half of our episode. But if you are new to the show, please go ahead, subscribe to us, share with a friend, help the podcast grow if you could. We do weekly episodes where we talk about comic books, movies, TV shows. We start off with what we are drinking. Then we go into what we have read or watched, and then some pop culture news, followed by a main topic. You can find all of our episodes by going to our website, hopsnews.beer, where we also write really cool articles. Our merch is there. A lot of great stuff. Or you can also go ahead and search Hops News on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. We are a part of the Hops News Network, which is our live show that we do on Thursdays as well. And if you're looking for our merch and you can't find it on the website, go to hopsgeeknews.threadless.com. We've released some cool new stuff. Maybe we'll be working on some things here in the near future. And then right now, you can also find me personally doing a post Obi-Wan summer extravaganza show on Metalcore Nerds because I've been teaming up with Sean over there. And we have something really cool to announce happening next week, which Lauren, I will tell you offline. But yeah, with that said, the topic tonight is Star Wars. And so we are drinking
minutes.
So we are drinking Darth Jiggler, which is from Live Oak Brewing Company. It is a really delicious beer, and I picked it up while I was down in Austin, Texas, and was saving it for a rainy day. It's not raining, but we are really excited to have some Star Wars stuff coming on. So, Lauren, I assume you're drinking the same thing?
I am. I haven't poured it yet. It's taken me a minute to pour it because it just made the trip from Idaho here today. But I do have it in my Grogu Mandalorian glass. I'm about to snap a picture with my little chewy stuffed animal. So
it did. I managed to somehow get it out there to you. And for those of you who don't know what Darth Jiggler is, it is a 4% Lithuanian wagon lager. Once again, from Live Oak Brewing Company out of Austin, Texas. It's got some dark notes to it. I picked it up because our good friend Rob from Woodland Empire had said that, hey, he'd always wanted to go to Live Oak and get that beer. And so I just happened to be there and I picked up some beers to go, brought them back, shared them with him. And of course, I had to get it to my homie Lauren out there. So
okay, I just put two and two together, and this is actually pretty funny. I went to Austin a year ago, almost exactly to the day, and Live Oak was one of the breweries I didn't make it to. We just ran out of time. There's so many fantastic breweries in Austin, and this one I didn't make it to. My mom got back from Austin today. The first beer she had was at Live Oak, and it was the Darth Jiggler.
Was it? See, she listens to our recommendations. Maybe she saw my San Antonio beer video where I recommended going up there.
Maybe. But yeah, I don't know. But that's kind of funny because I was like, oh, this is the second time I've heard this name before. Wait a minute. Because I forgot that you were sending me Texas beers. I was just thinking these were from Idaho. Well, and it didn't, the can too, it doesn't have a label on it. But I can't wait for this head to settle so I can try it.
Yeah.
She raved about it. She was all excited about it.
You couldn't get this beer. But you know what? Papa Roth always comes through. Homies help homies always. And I didn't put it in my Live Oak glass like a fool. I should have. I put it in my Hops Geek News glass. So But people don't want to hear about that. What did we mess up and or look into? I'm a little appalled at the fact that somebody doesn't follow our Twitter account, because you would have seen me tweeting this as I watched it. But go ahead. What did you just find out?
So I'm also not as big of a horror fan as you. So I feel like I've only really gotten into horror movies, I feel like, since we started doing this podcast. So I was intrigued by the fact that in season 4 of Stranger Things, with Nancy and Robin, when they go to see the old guy at the insane asylum, it's actually the actor Robert Englund who plays Freddy Krueger, and he's having nightmares.
I'm disappointed in you. Yes, I thought I mentioned this to you in a text. Apparently, you don't pay attention to what I say to you, so that's fine.
Maybe that's where I got the fun fact. And I was like, hey, our listeners might enjoy this fun fact because it's fun.
If you didn't know, Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, is in season 4 of Stranger Things very briefly. It's really cool because this season really pulls from, the Nightmare on Elm Street 80s horror kind of stuff. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed getting to see him again. I love him. Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street are one of my favorite, franchises.
Yeah, I've never seen one of them other than like Freddy versus Jason. Yeah. I've never seen an actual Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
It's good in that it's entertaining, but I'm also really appalled. I can't believe
maybe we'll have to do a episode.
Anakin, you're breaking my heart.
October.
Yeah, this October we'll have to do
one. I also like Sand Anakin.
Well, on the subject of what we're going to have to watch this October, why don't we go ahead into what we have read or watched this week? So we've both watched Obi-Wan. Let's go ahead and wait till we're with the Wookiepedia folks. We'll discuss that a little later on. But what have you watched?
I watched Jurassic Park.
Did you really? You saw it?
Jurrasic World Dominion. Yes.
When did you go and see that? You never once mentioned this to me.
I was saving it for the podcast. Wednesday. I think you actually sent me a text like, hello, because I wasn't responding to some piece of fun news you sent me. It's because I was in the movie. No, it was
you
good.
Didn't think to mention that you went to Jurassic Park. Am I going to go see it tomorrow? Like, what's the 411? What's the tea, sis?
It was fun. It was good. But there were literally lines in this and I'm not going to spoil it. There were lines in this that were like straight out of the 1993 one. Like they were really grasping straws to try to recreate
it was Colin
the magic
Trevorrow
they did.
who did this film. So
I mean, there were times I was literally like grabbing my husband's arm and like laughing. But I mean, there were some jump scares. I definitely jumped a couple times. So, I mean, and that's, stuff that you're really only going to get in theater. And this is probably the first movie I distinctly remember seeing in the theater. And, we did a whole episode on this a year ago. So it was interesting to see this movie 29 years later and be like, wow, I'm so old. I vividly remember seeing this movie. And it's the first movie I vividly remember going to and seeing. So it was fun. But I mean, let's face it, there's 6 movies now. You're never going to have a better one than the 1993 one. Like, that's it. That's the best one. The end.
True. No,
but it was fun.
I mean, that's true. I liked to see Worlds Collide. Lost World's a good movie. And I actually thought Jurrasic World wasn't so bad for what it was.
No, they're great. They're all fun. None of them are terrible, but the first one's the best. And I feel like once they got to Jurassic World, they were really selling nostalgia in the new ones. And I feel like they continued to do that. And honestly, my favorite part of Jurassic World was the nostalgia, was seeing the T-Rex come out and seeing the old Jeep and hearing the music and whatnot. But they really were pushing the nostalgia with the original trio. But, I love all 3 of those actors. And, a lot of people hate Chris Pratt. I don't hate Chris Pratt. He doesn't bother me. So it was fun to see the worlds colliding with that. And, you get the cameos from Jurassic World and the cameos from Jurassic Park.
I just got my ticket. I'm going to go tomorrow morning. So I'll give it a chance. What else have you kind of got into this week? Anything else you want to tell me? Is there anything else you want to tell me right now?
About The Boys?
I kind of feel like my idiot brain was getting fucked by stupid there for a second.
Oh my God, that's such a good line. And then she goes and uses it on the next guy. And the next guy likes it. And then she pulls out the Homelander thing. Oh my God,
she pulls out the Homelander strap on and he's super into it. Oh, all right, spoiler alert.
So into it.
This episode was very dildo heavy. It was an episode, yes. This episode shows the team go to Russia.
Which they do in the comics.
They do, yes.
Yes.
And
so if you want a little tidbit of the comics real quick, I won't ruin the show, but Nina in the comics is, and I mentioned this before, she's like obsessed with vibrators, and that's how Butcher ends up killing her, and he puts an explosive in her vibrator and she goes to use it and the whole plane explodes. But there's not a mind-blowing a mind-blowing soup in the boys' comic book. It's Nina has put implants in this group of superheroes, had almost like Suicide Squad. So she's able to blow their heads up as opposed to having a soup do it. So that's who Nina is.
Interesting. It was a good episode. This season is really freaking good. Like, and of course, I know you're more invested because Jensen Ackles is in it. And there was a scene where you're like, I had to rewatch it multiple times. And I was like, all right, I know he's coming back this episode then, but I didn't really realize to the extent. And then I saw naked Jensen Ackles walk out and I was like, now it all makes sense.
It was beautiful.
Who can blame masterpiece. You? That beautiful, beautiful man butt.
I know. Exactly. See, you
Look
get
at
it now.
Cheeks, that man does squats.
I do side bends or sit-ups, but please don't lose that butt.
On this, speaking of butts, on this episode, we actually see that Huey kind of gets on to Butcher because he's using, Compound V, and he kind of wants some of that. And Butcher's like, trust me, you don't want no part of this shit. He's like, I think I kind of do. In the comics,
he's like, here, take this so we can be on an even playing field.
But in this one, well, they all use it in the comics. But in here, Butcher's like, you don't want no part of this shit. And Huey's like, no, I think I kind of do. He was like, it's the most habitual forming thing out there. And he's like, I think I do want to try some of that.
If you don't know what is it? Walk Hard?
Yes, Walk Hard with Dewey Cox. Hell yeah. Trust me, you don't want no and part Tim of this. Meadows. It's the most non-habitual forming drug there is. I think I kind of do want to try some of that. Which is kind of that's how that scene played out in my mind. So Huey is like, all right, I'll let it go. They go to Russia, and Butcher showcases to the team that he has suit powers because they kind of get into a bind. And then Huey shows us that he took it as well. He kind of teleports, moves, like flash speed, punches a guy,
which is kind of ironic because A-Train, which that's straight out of the comics.
It is. And so is Jamie.
Yes. Well, Jamie's right out of something else too. So in the comics, like Huey doesn't mean to punch through somebody. He just punches and then he feels terrible about it, which we don't, we're getting
not in this episode.
I kind of love how different the show is. It's kind of like the difference between Marvel and DC, where DC will pull straight from the comics and Marvel like uses stuff and sprinkles it in.
Right.
But I mean, Marvel follows it more so than the boys, but I love that you're having such amazing stories that are just so different between the two. But so this actually Jamie and this are actually connected because Huey punches the guy all the way through, does not mean to. And then after this guy is dead, so he thinks, Jamie crawls out of him.
Yes.
And then
Huey
adopts him as a pet.
Well, yes. So Jamie in this is like a super powered hamster. They see that's in this Russian facility. And then Butcher, after everything clears, he rips off the door and out comes Jensen Ackles' Soldier Boy. And MM is kind of there having, some really emotional strong points to it.
PTSD there.
Yeah. And all of a sudden his chest starts to glow and Kimiko pushes Frenchie out of the way, takes a direct blast from whatever happened.
Havoc is what he looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what is it? Not
now,
Alex Summers? Yeah,
Alex Summers. It's Havoc. Yeah, Alex Summers. And so what we come to find out is that it took Kimiko's healing powers away. So she's pretty messed up at this point. And so it looks like the super gun type thing that Mallory sent the crew to go get and everything, or not, and Maeve also told them about, is BS. Inside Soldier Boy, I guess. I guess we have a lot of questions. Like, is Soldier Boy like the weapon that they sent to go get? That kind of stuff. There's a lot, because he just walks off and they don't chase him, which I don't blame them, because
I would chase him.
They have superpowers, but I mean, he just messed up Kimiko, so who knows. And then that shot of Huey looking like the Joker hanging his arm out the window where it's fully healed, it's kind of glowing because it looks like maybe his arm's healing more, because earlier in the episode he was standing face to face with Homelander, who was basically taunting him to his face, and he was sick and tired of being kicked down and stuff like that. So now Huey has access to Compound V. He has superpowers, and it's going to be really interesting to see, how Starlight takes that and kind of how everything evolves from here.
Right. I feel like she's not going to be happy with it, especially because how upset she was when she found out her mom drugged her. So to her, he's going to be doing this intentionally. But there are theories that Kamiko, that they're going to give her a shot of Compound V to boost her powers. But I'm guessing the musical thing we're seeing is like her fever dream kind of thing.
That would make a lot of sense. Yeah, we are getting a musical episode this week because musicals are so hot right now.
When are they not hot? They're fun. They're catchy. Musicals, come on, Glee was popular for years. So hot.
But I mean, no. So this season's really ramping up. I'm excited. This next episode that we'll talk about next week is leading us to a lot of things. So did you watch anything else besides The Boys and Obi-Wan and Jurassic Park? I mean, Miss Marvel, I assume.
That's it.
Okay. Well, I'll get into that. I watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal. And I was very thrown off by the trailer. So the trailer made it look like Nicolas Cage goes out there to this party and, you know, they are on the run right from the get-go. Well, that's not the case. It kind of bait and switches, but in a very good way. And it's very hyper aware. And there's just scenes where like Nicolas Cage's face-off twin is flashing back in his head. It is so freaking. And there's this thing where he's like, "I'm Nicolas fucking Cage." He says that to like hype himself up, and it is pure Nicolas Cage through and through. They go ahead and they call back to so many different movies. Like, and for some reason in this film, he's obsessed with Paddington 2. So that's like a running joke. I'm not going to spoil it because you haven't watched it. You mean the one that
Johnny Depp voices?
Yeah.
This is a joke.
But I won't spoil it because it's still relatively new. I will definitely say that you have to watch this movie. It is ridiculous in a really good way, and it made me feel good. And I just love Nicolas Cage so much. So I also watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, which has been amazing. A lot of people's like movie of the year. My movie of the year is still Top Gun. However, this movie is really good, and I didn't expect Jamie Lee Curtis to show up in it, but she does. And I'm not going to spoil this movie either. But I saw something.
She's like a secretary or something.
Yeah, so it's like very multiverse. You know, it's people said this is my multiverse of madness, and it is.
Right.
They go through the multiverse, and one of the characters in it is actually the kid from The Goonies and Indiana Jones. Like, he's not a kid anymore; he's a grown ass man.
Oh yeah.
But he sounds the exact same, and so he's in it.
He sounds really like Mr. Jones.
Yeah, he sounds Dr. Like. Jones.
Yes. Dr. Jones, my bad.
He even has a fanny pack in this, and it's good. It's a very good movie. I highly recommend that.
Fanny packs are back.
They are. I actually need to get one to go with my Padme Amidala shirt, and I got to get some shorts.
See, I bought one. I bought a Guardians of the Galaxy one at Epcot.
It's true. Now I'm kind of regretting. No
regrets.
Yeah. So we watched Miss Marvel. Let's talk about that real quick. What did you think of this week's episode? Spoilers,
I think it's cute.
3, 2, 1, by the way.
It's very cute. It continues to be cute. I definitely think it's aimed at a bit of a younger audience, but I'm enjoying the unfolding of it, and I'm taking it for what it is that she's a teenager, and she's very much so a teenager. And, you know, sometimes you got to tell the kids stuff, even if you don't want to tell the kids stuff, because you assume that they're too young to know. But sometimes if you don't tell them, they're going to figure it out.
They are not too young to know. And it's very coming of age. And I am a sucker for coming of age stories, which is kind of what this is in a lot of ways. And something that they're doing really well is they are showcasing like the Pakistani, the Muslim kind of culture. You know, this one was they were in a mosque a few times. And I thought showing that culture in a positive light, because American media, right, look at who's the main bad guy in a lot of these war films, things like that. It's often, you know, the Muslim culture. And so to see it in a positive manner for once in a superhero film, that's freaking awesome.
And they're tying in real history
20
too.
Years ago. Yeah. We wouldn't have gotten this 20 years ago. And so I'm loving that they're showcasing these different cultures. And I thought the little callback to Eternals, did you catch that?
Yes, Kingo.
Yeah. So that was Kingo gets mentioned.
At the beginning when they were talking about Bollywood, I was like, oh, I think they were going to see something.
Do you watch any Bollywood? So his name is Kamran, is how they pronounce it, I believe. Yeah. I could be wrong, but I knew right from the get-go there was something more with that guy.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, so are they like related? Because then that's kind of creepy, but it seemed like they might be related.
I 100% don't know, but we can find out.
Because like if that's actually her great grandmother and that's his mom,
because she was using her powers, and there was that lady, she kept showing up in like these visions and things like that, like telling her to come and join her.
Right. And so I want to know if the power is coming from within, are they going to end up making her an inhuman? And this was almost like the Terrigen Mist kind of thing.
That was my next thing, was when Bruno was, they were talking about her powers because they were practicing a lot, and he was scanning her. He was like, the power's not coming from the bangle, it's coming from within. So her power is coming from within then, which is pretty cool. And I will admit that I'm not sure how I feel about how the power set for her has changed, but maybe it'll grow on me more. I'm not hating the show by any means. Maybe it's one of those things that it's got to grow on me.
Right. But it's like, how many of them in the MCU have dormant super, and I'm not talking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because obviously we don't know if that's legit canon, even though they advertised it like it was at first.
Yeah.
Like, who else has dormant superpowers? Like, we don't see that. Like, we don't have mutants. We don't have Inhumans. No. So, I mean, every superhero we have was a genetic experiment, was an alien. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have that. So if it was inside of her, what the hell is she?
We don't. Yeah. And they won't talk about her great grandmother at all or anything like that. They're very secretive. Why are you talking about her? Don't mention that name. So
I really hope they make her an Inhuman. I would love to see that. That in, we were supposed to get an Inhuman movie years ago, and then we got that tidbit in Multiverse of Madness. It's so
they might be bringing it back in the fold. There's more at play here for sure, and we haven't really been introduced to the bad guy yet. Outside of, there's that scene where she gets away from the agency. And
which is the same guys that were. You think we'll see Daredevil? But those were the same guys that were in Spider-Man: No Way Home. So
right.
And there's theories that She-Hulk is visiting that place, and I don't know if she's advocating for them or against them, but I'm wondering if we're going to get any tie-ins with Daredevil or She-Hulk or, anything like that as far as defending these kids who keep getting attacked.
That's true. Hopefully we do. That'd be pretty cool to tie them all in. So I really like this show. I really do. It's really lighthearted, a coming of age again. Like I said, I'm a sucker for those. It's
so much
been a lot of fun, and it's very visual. Yeah, the visuals are insanely good. Like,
I didn't mean eye candy like Jensen Ackles. I meant like
this is a different version of eye candy. Like, if you like bright colors and really cool cosmic things, this is the show for you. And I also like how I forget her name because I'm awful with names, but she's the popular girl who got saved in the first episode. She's like using it. And they call her Nightlight.
Yeah.
Like, what an awful name too. It's just ridiculous.
They need a, what's his face from Flash? Cisco. They need a Cisco to come give some better names.
They do. So yeah, that's kind of all I've been reading, watching. I haven't watched or read any comic books. I haven't really done much else. I've been super swamped, and there's so much content out there to watch right now. So we're gearing up for Stranger Things in a couple of weeks as well. So, and Thor and
actually read a little bit. I started a Sabretooth comic. I'm only 3 issues in, but like my comic book shop will just put things in there, if it's another Wolverine or something they think I like. And if I don't like it, I'll just be like, don't do this again. But they threw in a Sabretooth, and it's actually really good. He's like stuck in like the hell version of Krakoa that Xavier has basically sent him to. But then he sends these other mutants in there as like a punishment for not following the laws of Krakoa. And if anybody doesn't know what Krakoa is, it's a place in the comics where it's like all mutants are welcome and they have like a mutual respect, like the good ones and the bad ones. Like even Omega, ends up in Krakoa, and even though Wolverine doesn't like it, like they have to like respect each other there. And it's really interesting though, because I almost found myself having empathy for Sabretooth, which is a character I've never had empathy for.
Right.
But then he's still like a really bad guy. And I'm really enjoying it. So, I'm early on in the issue. If it continues and I really like it, I will definitely bring it up again. But I did catch up on a few comics this weekend. Read some Eternals, read some Sabretooth.
I did.
Some Noctera.
I will say, you just reminded me, I did catch up on my Darth Vader run. So that is one that I did catch up on, and it's very, very good.
I'm waiting for the next trade back for that one because I read the first 2 trade backs.
Yeah, I am very caught up on that. So other than that, yeah, we will, we're going to go ahead and we are going to roll right into Wookiepedia now. So we will be back in just a second. We're going to talk some Star Wars things, and after that, we'll wrap it up with some news. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Oh, nope. We're just going to record. Yeah, this will air. I'll drop it on Sunday night going into Monday. So really, we drop it then to kind of like allow it to breathe, and then I'll push it out Monday morning really heavily. And then also, are you caught up with Kenobi and everything? Sweet. So maybe nice. Hell yeah! So then we'll maybe talk a little Kenobi then too, because we've watched it. Usually we do like a "What are you watching?" reading section, but I kind of save that just in case you had. So that works out. Then we'll talk about it a little bit. If so, sweet. We'll go ahead and get started then. What's up, everybody? And welcome back. We are here with Jordan, aka the Supreme Emperor, one of the fine folks who help make our lives easier as Star Wars fans. He and amongst his crew over there at Wookiepedia go ahead and they just make lives easier. I don't know how to say it other than that. I can't tell you how many times that I've gone to that website and just kind of like, oh, what is canon right now? Or, hey, how is this person related to this person? That kind of stuff. So
I use it for this podcast all the time, especially last month when we did our whole Star Wars month.
Yeah. Star Wars month was big. And so I know I leaned on that and I still lean on it a bunch. So Jordan, welcome. Thank you for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And how old were you when you first got introduced into the Star Wars world?
Well, thanks for having us, first of all. As you said already, I'm Jordan. I'm Supreme Emperor. I'm one of our administrators on Wookiepedia, which, as I'm sure many of your listeners know, is the largest online Star Wars encyclopedia in the world. My journey started back in... Hey, come on, you. Stop knocking my microphone over. You can hang out. No, you're not joining this. We have a cat that wants to join in. So my journey began back in the early 2000s. I found a used copy of Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn at a local used bookstore. And once I read that, I just kind of kept going. So I found that trilogy first and the Jedi Academy trilogy. And then I just kind of, okay, you know what? We're just going to hold the microphone. No, okay, we're just going to hold the microphone. So then after that, I just kind of kept grabbing whatever I could find, be it the first, second, third, fourth, or midway through the Yuuzhan Vong trilogy, or the Yuuzhan Vong series. The Jedi Academy. Let's start that over without the cat. Okay, excuse me. Okay, as I was saying, my journey started back in the early 2000s when I found a used copy of Heir to the Empire at a local used bookstore. Once I read that, I was just hooked immediately. I completely blitzed the rest of that series along with the Jedi Academy trilogy, and then I just kept snagging up everything I could find, be it the second book in a series, is it halfway through the New Jedi Order series? Didn't matter. I would just grab it, read it, and fill in the gaps with Wookiepedia.
Oh, wow. Nice. So this has been around for a while. How did you kind of get linked up then with Wookiepedia?
So that came about after just a casual conversation with one of my childhood best friends. We were talking about he was introducing me to the Sun Crusher, and this was before I read the series. And I was thinking, what the heck is this thing? I've never heard of this thing that can blow up a star. And he's like, oh, go look it up on Wookiepedia. So I went there, and then I went to another page, and then another page, and then another page.
Because there's so many pages on there. Trust me, it's easy to get lost.
We fall down a rabbit hole. You need to know the definition of this and then the definition of that and what this means and where that came from. Yeah.
And from there, it was a lifelong obsession. That was just the start of a lifelong obsession, which has then turned into a daily thing. Excuse me, stop going on the keyboard. As I was saying, yes, that turned into then a lifelong obsession, which I then started editing on. I made a couple edits here and there around 2008, but didn't really get deep into that until 2011. That's when I kind of started connecting more with the community. I started meeting the other people on site, and just generally getting to be a part of this. Started to be more of a part of this, amazingly large community.
Yeah, Star Wars. It's one of it might be the biggest, fandom out there. Everybody, of course, they're the big ones, your Harry Potters, your Lord of the Rings, your Doctor Who's, your Marvels, that kind of stuff. But Star Wars is something that connects to everybody, whether they're into this sci-fi action, kind of genre of things. Star Wars means something to everybody. We've talked about this before. You even have actors like Daniel Craig who are willing to go and play a stormtrooper, a nameless, faceless stormtrooper, because it means something to them. So it's crazy to think about just how wide this fandom reaches. And then, like you said, it's just being a part of that community. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's honestly it's one of the greatest parts of it's honestly been one of the greatest experiences of my life getting to meet this, not only this larger Wookiepedia fan base, but the Star Wars fandom, the fandom in general.
Mm-hmm.
And just learning about how everyone has a story about how they got here. Everyone has their own likes and dislikes, but at the core, this is the one thing that really binds us all together, is our love for Star Wars. You might like something different than me, and that's totally fine. I might like something different than you, but at the heart, we still like the same thing.
Yeah. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, Star Wars, we love Star Wars at its core, and like you said, it doesn't matter how you got started, where we got started from. And like you said, most people who talk about how they got into Star Wars was, oh, I remember, watching the original trilogy, or maybe it's, I went to the prequel trilogy kind of things.
My parents made me watch it.
Yeah. Or my parents made me watch it, but you picked up the books, and, I remember the Legends. My God, there's so many different stories with Legends, but Heir to the Empire is with Thrawn, and it's one of the best. It's still talked about to this day. It's one of the best trilogies out there. If you're able to read it, you can, but it's just interesting seeing that you picked it up from the book wise.
Yeah. And like growing up, I knew like I knew kind of the things like, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. Right. He's Anakin Skywalker. I knew all of that. So this was kind of my way of getting into it in something that I didn't already know, and getting to experience all of this firsthand without reading about it in advance or hearing about it from a friend in advance.
Right. And so how much time do you typically spend behind the scenes, working on Wookiepedia and just updating things or making sure everything's good to go?
I don't know if I really want to admit that one. Quite honestly, probably a couple hours on any given day. Be it just kind of connecting with the community, just chatting with people, seeing how they're doing. I do a lot of our social media. I'm on our social media team, so I handle our Twitter account. I do our YouTube, and I assist on our Instagram. So that takes up, a chunk of my day getting that set up for the next day. Planning some things out in advance, doing a bit of graphic work for it. And then, of course, we all have our own lists of projects on site. It's all volunteer based, so everyone just kind of works on what interests them. So for me, that normally translates to having quite literally a stack of assorted bits of scrap paper with words written down on them of things I want to do.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And yes, it's a list that I will never complete because I continue to add things to it, knowing full well I do not have time to get to them.
Yeah, it's nice to know I'm not the only one that hand writes out a list.
It's really satisfying
about it. Yeah.
Yes, and then when I finish something, I can cross it off, which has also led to my obsession with hoarding all the pens I can get.
When you have a nice good pen.
Yeah.
You cannot. But no, it's and I know a lot of people on site do this. We'll have like our own lists of things we want to do, be it an article I want to write or a project I want to propose, or in my case, a list of ideas for Twitter, things I want to do for a YouTube account. Just a cool thing I read that I think would kind of connect well with our followers on social media.
Right.
Now, Wookiepedia is similar to Wikipedia in the sense that anybody can edit it, correct?
That's correct. So it's actually, fandom, or Wikipedia was founded by Jimmy Wales, who also co-founded this company, Fandom, which hosts us, which was formerly known as Wikia, and before that, Wikicities. So it was kind of a spin-off from that same concept of this is an encyclopedia that anyone can edit, but this is more specialized in nature.
Right. So how often do you guys have to look and be like, okay, Chewie's real name is not Bob? Or like, how often do people do ridiculous things like that?
Probably a couple dozen times a day, something will get reverted to some extent. But there's normally a lot of...
Can you guys get on that and fix it? Or does it take a while for you guys to figure it out? Or do you have to approve things pretty quick?
Generally, they get caught very quickly. There's normally, I would say, upwards of a dozen people watching our recent changes feed at any given time. So generally, that stuff will get caught very quickly.
So how big is the team then? Because you said a dozen are watching, the feed at a time. How big is the team that works behind the scenes on all this?
I would say on any given day, there's probably upwards of 50 people editing. And over the course of a month, a couple hundred when you start factoring in like someone who's just reading an article and fixes a typo. It's easily into the hundreds.
God, I didn't even think of that, fixing typos. I just thought about fixing ridiculous stuff. Because I know like on Wikipedia, was it Daniel Tosh posted something and he encouraged people to edit his profile and make up absurd things. And so like if you had gone to his profile for a while, like it was the absolute most absurd, BS, not accurate facts. So I didn't even think of typos, because a lot of people are very illiterate these days.
Oh yeah.
And especially when we're trying to do all these things rapidly, it's easy for a little typo to slip through, especially since Wikipedia, our style is American English, but we have contributors from all over the world. So the way that we spell something on site might not be the same as what they're used to.
Right.
Or something doesn't translate properly. So as far as like, because in the last few years, obviously we've had a lot of new content as far as TV shows and, Disney Plus and whatnot. So has that made a higher, have you seen an increase in people coming to Wikipedia? Because like myself included, it's like, oh, okay, who's this Chrysanthemum character? I need to look him up because I didn't read that comic book. So have you seen like an influx in that? And if you have, are you guys having to be quicker on things? Like when a new episode of Obi-Wan comes out, are you like, oh, we got to do this?
Well, the interesting thing is, in terms of trying to rapidly update things, that's something that generally we've never really had too much of a problem with. If anything, the problem is we tend to focus more on the ancillary characters instead of the main characters. Fun fact, for example, prior to the launch of Obi-Wan Kenobi, for at least the 7 or 8 years since the 7 or 8 years now since the new canon split happened, we only had one paragraph on the Obi-Wan Kenobi article about the Phantom Menace movie.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And I guess nobody ever thought to update that, because we just tend to focus on, everyone knows who Obi-Wan Kenobi is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But who's this other background character?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But generally, whenever there's a new show, we anticipate we're going to get, a much larger influx of viewers. We can generally, through our analytics, I can kind of tend to predict what people are going to be searching for after seeing an episode, because people tend to fluctuate towards the lesser known things. For example, Obi-Wan Kenobi is not the top trending article on Wikipedia. The top trending article right now, and has been for the past month, is the Inquisitorius.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, because I feel people know Obi-Wan, but a lot of people
haven't seen Rebels. Yeah.
Well, right. Like those who haven't watched Rebels, or maybe you haven't played Fallen Order, you're like, what is going on? Like, who are these Inquisitors? Who's this Grand Inquisitor? Things like that. So that actually makes a lot of sense, because a lot of casual, I hate to use that word, but a lot of them might not know who that is.
Exactly.
No,
but normally, when a new episode comes out, people tend to be very quick on the draw when it comes to writing up content. The first episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi, for example. So I was flying out that morning to LA for a fandom event. Watched the premiere and the second episode couple hours before I flew out. And as I'm on the plane, I'm looking through our Discord channel, and all I see is someone say that, okay, the article on the homeless clone trooper, that's done. So I click on it, and yeah, that article is done. There's nothing else we can add there. It's got the body, it's got the bio, it's got the intro, it's got the behind the scenes, it's got the personality and traits.
Wow.
It's got the equipment, it's got everything. It's just done within like 4 hours of show launch.
That's kind of odd. Do you guys get to watch the shows early at all, being that you do what you do, or do you watch them as they come out like the rest of everybody else?
No, we see it the same as everyone else. We see it all at the exact same time. The only real, I guess, early, quote unquote, I use that term very loosely, access that we got was through a friend I have on Twitter who happened to meet somebody, gave us a brief heads up that the show was going to be dropping a couple hours earlier than what people had thought. But other than that, we see it at the same time everyone else does.
Huh. I do remember
recording.
That.
Yeah, because we were recording, and he was like, "Oh, they just dropped the first 3," and I was up way too late that night.
Yeah, I remember sitting there and I was like, "Oh, we have X hours," and all of a sudden I saw something that said it's dropping at this time now, and I was like, "Well, I'm staying awake tonight because I have to watch this." And oh man,
yeah. See, I'm East Coast though. I started it at midnight.
And see, for me, that was...
Or no, it was 2.
So for me, I was flying out at about 7 a.m. because I was flying to LA. It was going to be a couple hour time difference. That was already going to throw me off.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had to be up early to go to the airport. That's, a few hours of less sleep I'm going to get. And then I hear that, okay, the episode is going to launch 3 hours earlier than expected. And at that point, I have a choice. I can either stay up, watch this, try to sleep on the plane, and then go into this fandom conference, or I can sleep, watch it on the plane, and risk having it spoiled because obviously I'm still doing things on our social media while I'm on the plane.
It's a minefield out there, especially running a big Star Wars one like you do. I can't even imagine.
So I did the only logical thing. I stayed up, watched the first episode, figured, okay, I'll sleep for a couple hours, watch the second one on the way in. And about 5 minutes later, probably gave up, watched the episode, and then just stayed up the rest of the night. And I think by the time I did sleep, I was up for probably like 20, 21 hours straight.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, but it's one of those things where it's like life is about adventure and things like that. So it's those stories that you remember more so than like, yeah, it was easy. You could have just gone to bed, but there was so much hype behind this particular show in general that I know for me, I could have easily done the same thing, like go to bed, wake up early for work. I'm out here in mountain time, so I got lucky, but it was worth it. So I want to ask then, what are your thoughts on the Kenobi series? Have you been enjoying it so far?
Oh, I've been absolutely loving it so far. I'm loving how we get to see that, Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is after, this is 10 years after he's fought Anakin, 10 years after they've had their quote unquote final showdown. This is 10 years that he's not been a Jedi, 10 years where he's been, fighting every instinct in his body to help people and having to turn a blind eye. And you get to see the toll that took on him, like how he had to turn down helping a fellow Jedi. He had to turn a blind eye to all of these injustices that he's witnessing on a daily basis because that's the only way he can protect Luke is to not draw attention to himself and just blend in with the background. Right. And you see the toll that's taken not only on him and his mental state, but on his skills with a lightsaber and with the Force.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It was kind of cool seeing, like, I know a lot of people were just, oh my gosh, it's Obi-Wan. Why is he struggling with the Force, a lightsaber? But it made sense. He's been shut off from the Force for 10 years. He doesn't have it right away. It's not like you can just pick it up after 10 years and be what you were, especially for Obi-Wan, somebody who was so strong in the Force like he was, such a really great Jedi overall. Getting to see his journey kind of back to the Obi-Wan that we knew from the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy, it's been a lot of fun. And I know especially this last episode for me, just the one thing I came into this series hoping for was just seeing Vader at his ruthlessness, and they delivered to us 100%. And I'm out here just like, give me more of Darth Vader. Spoiler alert, he beat down Reva without even using a lightsaber, and he was just toying with her the whole time. And it was 100% Vader Anakin because he was just so petty about it.
Yeah, it's exactly what you would expect from him, especially after you can see how this 10 years has affected him too. He's not that, same bright-eyed Padawan that we remember. He's turned into a very ruthless figure where he's going to have his way or no way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really good. This show I feel like has done a lot for me personally. This is something I've been asking for since Revenge of the Sith ended. I was like, I need to see when Obi-Wan finds out that Anakin is alive. I need to see what happens, like hunting them the Jedi, all that kind of stuff. So it's been very therapeutic, I think, for a lot of fans as well, if that's the right word, because of just getting to see Ewan back. And I know I can't even imagine those two, him and Hayden, coming back into this role. And it's been a really great show.
It really has.
Yeah, they're doing a great job connecting the prequels and the originals. So going back a little bit to Star Wars, we're going to ask you some favorites. And like you said before, everybody has their different favorites. Everybody has their different dislikes. We all love something different about Star Wars. So if you had to pick of the 3 trilogies, which one is your favorite?
Ooh, that's tricky because my favorite movie is Revenge of the Sith.
Dude, me too.
But in terms of era, my favorite is the original trilogy going through the Galactic Civil War.
That's
a tricky one.
I like how you put that. That's actually a really good point. I like how you worded that, because mine is also Revenge of the Sith. But going through the Galactic Civil War, actually, that's a really good point. And I like what they're doing, building on that with like the Andor show coming out, things of that, with Rebels, how it takes us from the very beginnings of the rebellion, and then we get to see how it ends. It's very rewarding.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, you just answered favorite movie. So what's been your favorite show? Clone Wars, Rebels, Obi-Wan, Mando, Boba. Did I miss anything?
I could say the Clone Wars because that was the one that started, or that premiered when I was, still a kid, and kind of followed me into adulthood. But recently, I find that my quote-unquote favorite show will fluctuate based on kind of what's coming out now, because I'm looking at it not only from viewing, but also from the Wikipedia standpoint. So right now, Obi-Wan Kenobi, no question. Before that, Book of Boba Fett and Mando, and it just kind of goes with the trends.
That makes sense. I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite almost at this point too, because there's so much content.
I couldn't answer these questions.
There's so much content, right? It's like, what am I feeling at that moment? It's when somebody asks you what's your favorite movie of all time, it's more of like, that's hard to answer because there's so many different genres, so many different periods of time, things like that. It's how do I answer this?
That's why we ask the hard-hitting questions that are hard to answer.
That's true.
I'm glad that you said, Book of Boba Fett was your favorite when that was on, because I really liked that, but a lot of people didn't seem to love it. But I thought it was a great back and forth storytelling and bridging things. And, we got Mando, and I think Mando, they were testing the waters. And then, I felt like Boba, they were really starting to create this Disney Plus universe that tied everything together. And I think now with Obi-Wan, name dropping other characters that are, very subtle. And, as soon as I'm done watching Obi-Wan, I go straight to YouTube and I look up one of the Easter egg videos. And I very much so enjoyed Boba. So I was happy to hear you say that, because I know some other people did, but I know some people really were not fans of it. And I was surprised.
Did you happen to notice in the last episode that wall that had the Orabesh text on it?
Yes.
I saw the wall.
Well,
I don't know anything in particular. Yeah.
Okay, so a fun little Easter egg that we caught with that someone's already translated. One of the names on there was Corwin Shelvey. And the interesting thing is that's actually a character dating back to one of the old West End Games books from the 80s, 90s. Simultaneously with the launch of that episode, Pablo Hidalgo, who does a lot of the work with lore, obviously, tweeted out just an image of this, just this image from one of the old West End Games source books of this Jedi with no context whatsoever. And I'm just like, I know what you're doing, Pablo. I know what you're doing, and I like it.
Well, I know, and there's still some of the characters when they were on Mustafar, and Obi-Wan stopped and looked at those tombs essentially, and people were still trying to figure out, okay, who's some of them, a couple of them I think were people knew, like the one guy was from Clone Wars, but some of them I think people are still having a hard time figuring out who exactly they're supposed to be. Yeah, and some of them didn't ring a bell to me off the top of my head. But obviously, we had Terra Sinube, like you said, we saw him there. And we saw one of the younglings, but I don't think they've been identified yet.
No, they haven't.
I know there's a theory that he was one of the kids that was with Reva in this episode. I'm not.
That was one of my thoughts. I'm very interested to see where they're going to go with that whole Jedi tomb, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But not to mention, are they dead? Are they alive but in stasis?
Right. We had that same conversation because in was it Rebels, that looked like a decomposing corpse when they had the similar thing that they were using to draw Kanan in. But, I guess a lot of people think like they got to be still drawing their metachlorians or whatever Moff Gideon was trying to do with Grogu to like experiment or clone or whatnot. But I did see a joke that was like, okay, they're doing all this to try to clone to answer Oscar Isaac's question or Poe's question of somehow he cloned himself. We don't know how.
Somehow Palpatine has returned,
Yeah. So Obi-Wan's going to answer that question as to how.
Maybe. I don't know. I liked the callback. I liked how they brought back Quinlan Vos, of all people, because not a lot of folks have maybe read Dark Disciple, which if you haven't, it's a really, really good book. Probably one of my favorites.
It really is.
And so like that, even that little callback, it makes you wonder like, okay, are we going to introduce maybe from these other Jedi like Quinlan that we haven't gotten to see yet? Like there's a whole world out there. And then even showing the lightsabers and things like that in this most recent episode, that's the great thing about Star Wars is there's so many.
Whose lightsabers were those? Were any of those identifiable? That was my first thought. Whose lightsabers are those?
I haven't taken a look at it, but I haven't really seen anyone posting anything about that.
I haven't either.
That would be very interesting if someone did catch like a Mace Windu's lightsaber, for example.
Oh my gosh.
Well, because I paused it and was even looking at it and I was trying to figure out whose is whose, but I didn't recognize any of them. And then I even went and I was browsing Twitter right away and nobody's really mentioned anything about the lightsabers. So I'm not sure. I very well could be wrong, but I don't really know that they're anybody's in particulars, perhaps. They're just random Jedi, so to speak.
Yeah, the Easter egg video I watched, they didn't know either.
Right.
I was like, damn it, I wanted to know. I feel like there had to have been at least one. Like, come on.
Yeah.
From Clone Wars or something. Like, geez. Or even a book.
Well, knowing that Pablo's involved, that I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of them was a reference to some obscure product.
Yeah.
Just because. And Pablo, if you're watching this, we love you for it.
Yeah, right. Like he's somebody his Twitter feed and stuff is one of the ones that I always go to as well, because I'm like, he always answers everything. He's very vocal, very active. And so I run to his right away, but I haven't seen anything there either. So hopefully he answers something very soon, very soon. So
we don't even know whose robe it was.
No, we don't. In regards though to kind of the callbacks and things like that, are you reading any of the comic books right now?
Trying to, but I am so far behind on everything.
It's so hard to be. Well, there's so much coming out right now. Like I just read Brotherhood, which if you haven't had a chance to read yet, it's very good. It's perfect timing because it really builds on Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship.
I picked up a copy of it while I was in LA, and we were actually, Mike Chen's been hanging out in our Discord, just kind of dropping out random little bits of behind the scenes information.
So vocal. It's awesome.
And like, I'm so hyped to actually eventually find the time to read this book, because there's so much thought that went into it.
Yeah.
Like, he went to all these lengths to include references to just even people that he got inspiration from while he was writing.
Yeah, which Mike Chen on Twitter, he did a whole thread, and there was people who he went to for information for this book, and so he even named like a couple Jedi after them and stuff like that. And one of my favorite things has been, like you said, he drops little tidbits of information.
Yeah,
I love those callbacks and things. I'm a sucker for stuff like that, and so getting to see that, and then after reading the book, you're gonna love it. I think, especially because it builds on these relationships. So I'm really excited to see what you think about it when you do read it.
And it really just showcases the fact that, like, these aren't just authors. They aren't just creators. These people are fans, just like we are. They want to have these conversations too. They want to get excited about this.
Well, and I personally think that's why the Disney Plus shows are doing so well. It's because these are fans doing these shows. They're they're writing what they want to see, and it's what we want to see as well.
Yeah,
and we've seen that especially with
Filoni.
Even with just how much more active everyone has been on social media lately. It's people want to get out. They want to have that fun, positive experience where they can just talk about what's exciting them without having people being like, "Oh, well, this sucks." No,
right.
Focus on what you enjoy. Focus on the positive of that.
Right.
Yes. Let's not dissect everything to the point to where you just, yeah. It gets to be too much.
So in regards to that, though, what have you noticed or what sticks out for you with the Star Wars fandom as opposed to other fandoms such as like the Marvel, the Lord of the Rings and stuff like that?
I think it's the fact that Star Wars has its own very toxic part of the fan base, which is very small, but very loud. One of the most interesting things that I've found doing our Twitter, so I took the account over in late May, early June of last year. And one of the first things I did was just kind of try to connect with the fans, try to, figure out what do people want to see? What do they want to see Wookiepedia doing? And the most interesting thing I saw was that people just wanted to have those positive, engaging, insightful conversations. They just wanted to talk Star Wars. So then that kind of became the basis for where I tried to push the account to go, which was this positive environment where people can just enjoy Star Wars with all of us and just have a good time. And I've seen a large shift in the environment on the Star Wars side of Twitter over the past year, where it's gone from, this partially toxic area where people are just, talking crap about everything to people getting excited about things and, feeling like they can actually talk about it without being shot down.
Right.
Nice.
And I know, especially Star Wars, there's that, okay, nobody hates Star Wars like Star Wars fans, but it's just like...
He's stealing my line.
Well, it's what this is the most common trope, right?
I didn't get into Star Wars till a few years ago, so that's why I started saying that, because I didn't understand when I was getting into it, the people who were so into it were just shitting on it. And I was like, well, I didn't hate that. All right, sorry, Matt, I cut you off.
Well, no, I mean, it's because, I mean, the fandom's so big, like we mentioned, and then also like everyone that gets passionate about the thing that they love, right? So it's not that you hate it. It's just everybody has an idea of what they want it to be in things. So
yeah. It might have been you that said it, or somebody said it to me recently. It's like when you're so in love with something and you know it so well and so much better than quote unquote the casual fan, you're able to dissect it and do this. But I think sometimes we go too far into it and we stop enjoying it. And
yeah, I've seen that so many times on social media.
Fictional galactic civil war, like it's fictional.
We're talking about a universe of space wizards. Just sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, like space wizards. People move things with their minds. They have lightsabers. It's like you're thinking too deeply about what's going on. And I know we all fall in these traps. But yeah, I don't know. It's just
fun
funny
with it. And you're not being mean. It's okay. It's okay to take it apart and rip it apart and build it back up and fan theorize. I mean, hell, that's what a freaking geek podcast does. Just, don't be a dick about it.
That's my life motto. Don't be a dick. So
the one thing that I've said this like so many times across all the podcasts we've been on is that you can like everything about Star Wars and that's okay. You can not like everything about Star Wars. That's okay too. What you personally dislike, someone else is going to find inspiration in, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What you find inspiration in, what means something to you doesn't necessarily translate to somebody else because it's such a far-reaching thing. And so it's Star Wars, I can't say much more. It's my favorite property of all time. So I know I find myself being passionate about it too, but at the end of the day, we all love what we love and that's okay.
But your hate, when I make the comment, Star Wars fans hate Star Wars, your hate and your love and your passion for it, though, has encouraged me to watch more of it and get more into it.
Yes. So Lauren she hadn't really watched Star Wars before we started doing this podcast. And over the last year,
I had watched the main ones.
Well, yeah.
But I hadn't watched like
you
the cartoons.
You dove into the stuff. So I've gotten her on board. She's been even reading the comics. I'm proud of you.
I live in Orlando, so it was like when they built Star Wars Land and took away half of one of our theme parks, I was like, well, I guess I got to watch these movies now that my mom tried to make me watch when I was 13 and it didn't work. And I enjoyed the movies, but I didn't love the movies until I watched Clone Wars and I got into Rebels and did the rewatch in chronological order, which I don't understand why diehard Star Wars fans say don't watch it in chronological order, because I think that helps tremendously with truly.
Chronological is my first go-to.
Yes, but so many people are like, you have to watch the originals first. It's like, we know the 70s ones aren't going to have great tech. Like we understand what we're getting ourselves into. But I would get so confused. So watching it chronologically, I had a much better understanding of what was going on. It was like when Mando started and people were like, oh, this takes place after, Return of the Jedi because of this. I was like, how the hell did you know that? Now I get it.
Right.
But I needed that chronological order.
Well, especially watching, like, say, Revenge of the Sith after watching Clone Wars, it just adds so much to the dynamic between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like,
yeah, I watched...
They're quite literally brothers.
Yeah. No, the last time I watched it, I literally paused the movie, watched Clone Wars, paused the movie, watched Clone Wars, and it was so much better. So much better.
Right. So, Lauren, do you have any other questions before we wrap this up?
So we have 2 questions from listeners. Mandem Podcast asked if you couldn't name the website Wookiepedia, what's another name that you might have chosen?
Well, okay, so fun little story. So the concept for Wookiepedia originally started over on Wikipedia. And at the time, people were trying to determine how in-depth should Wikipedia coverage go. Should it be, every unidentified minor character? Should it just be, a page titled Characters in Star Wars? Where do they draw the line? That led to discussions about creating a splinter wiki, similar to, I'll use Halopedia as an example, the Halo wiki, of creating like a Star Wars specific version of Wikipedia. After discussion with then WikiCities, which then became Wikia and Fandom, which is our host company, one of the founders threw out the name of Wookiepedia. One of the alternate names was Wikipedia.
Oh, that's in Wicket, like the Ewok.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Wikipedia.
Wicked. Like, is this from Boston, Massachusetts?
But that was one of the little alternate names of what could have been.
Oh, that's interesting. I never knew that. Yeah, Wookiee's way better. Wookiees don't get enough love.
I think we had a home run on this name. I think it's a good name.
Me too.
It's probably the best of all the spin-offs of Wikipedia, hands down.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've ended up on the Marvel one and the Supernatural one, and you guys have the best. So our only other question from a listener is his Instagram is actually Beer's a Trap. It's a trap. Beer's a trap. And if you don't follow him, whoever's listening, if you like beer, you like Star Wars, definitely follow this account. He wants to know, and I think we all know the answer to this one, though. Who shot first, Han or Greedo?
Oh, it's a tricky one. So I'm going to go with my personal opinion. That's that Han shot first. Not only because, that was the original one.
He did.
But it's also his character. I mean, he's a smuggler. He's a lowlife. He's
right. This is the beginning of the movie.
He's lived in the gutters. He's not gonna, wait for someone to shoot him at point blank range. He's gonna shoot him first.
Yeah, that's very true. I feel the same.
I think the question's been settled.
Yeah. You heard it here, folks. I mean, not first, but you've heard it here from the official. I agree. Han did shoot first. So, Jordan, we want to say thank you for coming out and hanging out with us. We really, really appreciate it. We appreciate everything you and the entire Wookiepedia crew do, because you make a lot of lives easier. You make our podcast better. You make lives easier. And it's been a lot of fun just getting to chat with you. So is there first of all, obviously for people who might be living under a rock and might not know, where can they find Wookiepedia? And then also, is there anything else you want to say about Star Wars or the page in general? Well,
so if you don't know about Wookiepedia, if you Google anything about Star Wars ever, you'll probably find us first, but you can find us at starwars.fandom.com. You can find us on Twitter at @WookOfficial. You can send us a DM there anytime as well. That's the one that I tend to keep a closer eye on. You can find us on YouTube by searching for Wookiepedia, on Instagram as @Wookiepedia. And I guess a good final word is, as a wiki site, anyone can contribute to Wookiepedia. There's no bars that will prevent you from coming and contributing to the site in a positive manner. So if you want to join our team, if you want to be a part of it, you're more than welcome to. Please reach out and we'll be happy to help you get started.
That's awesome.
I never knew this. I never knew I needed this until now. That's good to know.
I have now converted 2 more podcast hosts into contributors.
This is awesome. I'm super jazzed about that. Hell yeah, I want to learn more. That is so sick. So Nice. Awesome. Don't tell my wife.
Awesome.
She's already like, you're going to spend more time. But no, thank you really from the bottom of our hearts. We really appreciate it. And you are welcome to come on here anytime if you want to chat Star Wars or anything else at all. We sincerely, this is an open platform for you or any of your other creators who want to just come and just talk and have a good time. So thank you again for hanging out with us. And we'll be back in a few moments with some news. Welcome back. We are here going to wrap up with some news. I know normally we go into news before our main topic, but today we're doing it after the fact. So let's get started. Midnight Suns Rise Again is a new comic book series coming from Marvel. It'll drop in September with a new team of mystical heroes. I know Wolverine is one of them and Blade. So Lauren, be on the lookout for that bad boy. Come in September. Speaking of comics, DC Comics have actually announced that Tim Drake Robin will be an ongoing series starting this September as well. And the Tim Drake Pride special writer, Megan Fitzmartin, will return with art by Riley Rossmo. So that's going to be pretty exciting. Tim Drake is a Robin who doesn't get enough love. I feel like they just kind of gets forgotten about, in my opinion. So getting to get his own series. Zac Efron will star in a movie from A24 by Sean Durkin called The Iron Claw, and the film will follow the rise and fall of the Von Erich family, which is a dynasty of wrestlers who made a huge impact on the sport from the 1960s to the present day. So that's going to be coming out. And then in addition to that, Zac Efron will be starring in some romantic comedy on Netflix that I'm not going to waste my time on because you'll hear me talk about it because I guarantee you I will watch it when it comes out.
You love those rom-coms?
I do. I do. I'm a sucker for them. Something that you're a sucker for right here. The Boys star Jensen Ackles has teased a new mystery Batman project.
I saw that interview, but it might be animated.
It's probably going to be animated. So he said that he spent 3.5 hours in the studio doing Batman. So that was a big deal. So more than likely it is going to be, I wonder if it's for any video games or it's probably an animated film coming out because he typically plays Batman or something of that nature in these animated films.
Red Hood.
Yeah, Red Hood.
I thought that there was rumors that he was going to be Batman in Gotham Knights.
The video game or that crappy CW
the CW show, especially now that Misha Collins is going to be playing Two-Face.
That's probably how that rumor. No, I think that's how that rumor got started because they started bringing in some supernatural characters, and they're like,
Misha
bring
Collins
in Jensen Ackles because if you want to save this TV show, bring in Jensen Ackles.
He'd
but
be
nothing
a great
is saving.
Batman. I'm not gonna lie, he would be a great Batman. He'd also be a great Wolverine. I mean, we've had tall Wolverines before because he's like I think 6'1". What's Hugh Jackman?
6'1". Yeah, no, that's
he's
about
not
right.
5'3".
Yeah, so yeah, he doesn't make
the
it bad.
only Wolverine I'd be okay with that wasn't Hugh Jackman.
I don't know.
No, he's good. He does the good voices, and like his voice in Supernatural is not his voice. Like he goes deeper.
Obviously, because everybody's Batman. Darkness. Yeah, so he'll be in that. Speaking of actors, Samuel Jackson recently went on the record and said that he is not doing statue chasing movies. You know, he doesn't go in for the Oscars or things like that. If you do this movie, you'll win an Oscar. He says no thanks. He'd rather be Nick Fury or having fun being Mace Windu with a lightsaber.
Hell yeah.
So I like that because
I'm picturing actual statues. It took me a second to figure out what you were saying.
He did. Yeah. So more often than not, people are like, chasing Oscars and they go in these Oscar chasing roles. Well, not Samuel Jackson. He wants to just have fun, which who can blame him? He's in his 70s. Like, let the man just wants to have fun.
He's had so many iconic roles. Hell, he was in the first Jurassic Park.
He's had so many
Fiction.
Really
yeah, like you said, Nick Fury, Frozone.
How has he not won an Oscar at this point? I don't honestly know because he's been in so many roles. So
does anybody actually, crazy. I mean, I get it. If you're in that job, it's like, okay, I do this. I would like to, receive an award for doing an exceptional.
But we all know Samuel Jackson is the baddest motherfucker on the planet.
Oh, 100%.
So that's way more than an Oscar.
The badass motherfucker. But does anybody viewing anything, like, does it ever sell you as like, oh, this was an Oscar nominated, whatever, an Oscar winner? Like, do you ever be like, I'm going to go see that movie because this person was Oscar nominated?
No, I mean, I personally don't, because
no, I don't either.
Just saying something's Oscar nominated or Oscar award winning, so and so, it's like, no, if it's a good movie, I'm going to be there. And then also, like, the fact that, okay, they finally gave one to Leonardo DiCaprio, which was cool. Yeah, he earned it. But like, at the same time, I'm not going to go seek a movie out because it won an Oscar, because those movies more than often than not, like, yeah, some of them are good, but they're just not my kind of movie.
I agree. I'm going to movies. Sometimes it's fun to have, like a mystery and a mind thinking and a trying to figure out who done it. But a lot of times, like, we're going to these things because real life is so hard and difficult and confusing, and we want to get my brain lost.
Off. Yeah.
Yes.
The story. You want to get lost in the story.
So I think what Samuel L. Jackson was saying was, put me back in Star Wars. I'm not done.
Before this, I was against him returning as Mace Windu. Now I'm kind of okay with it.
I mean, and he's definitely coming back as Nick Fury. Last we saw him, he was in space with no shoes.
He's coming back, especially for Secret Wars. Yeah, that's long gone. That's a foregone conclusion. So
I need to read Secret Wars.
Agreed. We gotta do an episode.
The more I learn about the comic book origin, the more I realize, like, that seems to be what they're,
that's exactly what they're going towards. Yeah.
Right. Was Infinity Gauntlet series. And so now they're going into Secret Wars.
Right. Well, moving on, Dakota Fanning has been cast alongside Denzel Washington in The Equalizer 3, which, if you don't know what that is.
But the two of them were in the movie where she was kidnapped.
Yes, that was Man on Fire. Yes. Yeah. Very, very good film, by the way. Mm-hmm. But the Chloe Grace Moretz, or however you pronounce her name, she was in the first couple Equalizers, and so now they're switching. And if you haven't seen them, they're really good. He's like a retired hitman kind of thing, who's just kind of like this regular old average Joe, and he's the second one. He's working in like a Home Depot. It's a really good movie. Can't recommend that series enough. I actually really enjoy it, but I'm also a sucker for like mindless action films, so that's going to be happening. Miranda Otto is going to be returning to Middle Earth. She is going to reprise her role as Eowyn of Rohan and will serve as the tale's narrator. I know Lauren doesn't care about Lord of the Rings, but to me, that's exciting. If you remember Lord of the Rings, she was Eowyn. Once I've already said, I am no man, and she kills the Witch King. And so, spoiler alert, yeah, she's going to be serving as the narrator for this Lord of the Rings series, and that will be coming out this fall. And then moving on, we have Good Girls alum Manny Montana will be a series regular in the Marvel Studios Disney Plus series Iron Heart. They are keeping details about his character under wraps, so I bet you he is Obadiah Stane's son.
Oh.
Without a doubt, because I guarantee you, like, guaranteed that's what he is.
That would be a fun callback.
It would, and would be really cool. So that's my thoughts. I've already told you that.
To bring it all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah. You take it all the way back to the beginning. Iron Man never leaves Marvel.
Maybe we'll get Betty Ross too, just saying.
She's never coming back.
This is some bullshit. It's not like...
I don't understand how they haven't even name dropped her. Like,
we should start like a campaign where everybody starts like tweeting at Liv Tyler, like, yo,
justice for
what's
Betty.
Up? Yeah, justice for Betty. I like
Kevin,
it.
What's going on? Like, what's going on here?
Right. We know he didn't forget about her.
No.
It just doesn't make sense. Maybe there's some issue as far as the contracts with who owns the Hulk movie, not Sony.
It's Universal.
Okay, so maybe that's what it is. Maybe MCU just has no rights to Betty Ross.
You can have Bruce Banner, but not Betty Ross for reasons, I guess.
For contract reasons. I mean, come on. Look at the crap with the Universal theme park versus the Disney theme park here. It's absolutely insane. We have the comic book versions at one theme park, which means you can't have the movie stuff at the other theme park, but you can sell the stuff at both parks. Like Universal literally sells MCU products.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. I don't get it.
But it's all fine lines in those freaking contracts. And I wonder if that's what it is. All right, I'm going to look into that next week.
We'll look into that next week because we've already talked about it before, so we need to. Something I've talked about is Joker 2 will be a musical. so will Looney Tunes and the Smurfs. So we're getting musicals left and right.
Wait, is this a crossover with Looney Tunes and the Smurfs, or these are two different movies?
These are all different movies, all different things. And so Looney Tunes has a movie coming out that's a musical. The Smurfs has a musical coming out. Everybody's got a musical. Harley Quinn will be played by Lady Gaga more than likely. And so a reality competition series, Squid Game The Challenge, is in the works at Netflix. 456 players will compete for $4.56 million going through various challenges inspired by the series. Capitalism wins in the end, folks. I don't know what to say about this one except for I'm exhausted. Like, it was only a matter of time before they capitalized on this, and then they got a bunch of poor people out here doing real life Squid Games. Like, that's capitalism at its finest right there.
They should focus on people who have student loans.
No shit. Are we going to cancel those? Who knows? I don't know. Yay.
Nope.
My last two bits of news.
Yeah. Okay.
Scream 6 will take place in New York. Neve Campbell is not reprising her role because they did not want to pay her enough money, which I
saw Matthew Lillard tweeted or said something about that being basically bullshit.
On Sony's part, or he was sticking up for her?
He was sticking up for her. He said they need to pay her what she deserves.
I mean, she's the star of the franchise. Yeah, they really should.
Yeah, she's carried the franchise the entire thing. Yeah,
like Sidney Prescott. When you hear Scream, you think, "Hello, Sidney." So, yeah. And then my last bit of news: Paddington 3 will be Paddington in Peru.
Is Johnny Depp voicing him?
Obviously, he just won his court case. He's back.
He's back. To anyone who just recently started listening to us, I was 100% certain Johnny Depp voiced Paddington a few months ago, and that is incredibly wrong. He did not. So my news, I don't have much. Hot Topic for anybody who wants Dustin's thinking cap from Stranger Things. Hot Topic has it. And Gooder now has Marvel sunglasses. So if you're a runner and you like Marvel, or if you're just a sweater and you like Marvel, Gooder has the glasses for you. This is not a paid promotion. In fact, I wanted to buy them, but they were $30. So I wish we would get paid
for this shit. So
if anybody is willing to spend Gooder's great because you can run and they don't slide when you sweat. They're great for the boat and paddleboarding and whatnot. But $30 for sunglasses for me personally is a lot because I lose them.
I feel like that's cheap.
$30? Well, they're not prescription.
Okay, but I feel like that's cheap because your Oakleys and stuff that people wear wicked expensive.
Oh, I don't wear Oakleys. I had Ray-Bans once and I lost them within like a week.
Or Hops Geek News sunglasses.
I wear those. No, I need cheap ones.
I have some breaking news. I got to interrupt you. Kit Harington will reprise his role as Jon Snow in a Game of Thrones sequel.
What?
Yeah.
Did it just come out right now?
That broke just now. And according to Daniel RPK, not only did Wanda survive the events of Multiverse of Madness, but she's going to be back for one of the MCU's upcoming projects that are filming this year.
Nobody thinks Wanda's dead. Nobody thinks that.
No, we all knew that, but we wish we can just leave Jon Snow's story dead because I done want it.
He doesn't want any more story. I'm not going to lie. I want more. Give me more Game of Thrones. But Jon Snow just wants to go to the wall and find another wildling and live his days free.
I don't know if that's your thing. Cool. But I'm tired. I'm tired. Go finish your news.
Okay. Yeah. So sunglasses. Okay. Spider-Man No Way Home is coming back to theaters in September 2nd with more fun stuff. Did you just say that? Did you have that in your news too?
I put it in your news.
Oh, well, excuse me. Beetlejuice 2 is coming out with Winona Ryder. The Boys season 4 has been renewed. I think we all saw that one coming. Obi-Wan, there is a Reva spinoff in the works. Neil Patrick Harris is actually joining the Doctor Who cast as part of their 60th anniversary party. Westworld season 4 on HBO is coming out on June 26th, and Handmaid's Tale season 5 comes out September 14th, and of course that's on Hulu. Oh, and there you go. That's what you said. You said it a little more fun on my news. You wanted more Spidey, and you got it. Spider-Man No Way Home, the more fun stuff version, swings into movie theaters in the US and Canada September 2nd. More countries to be announced soon.
Bang. Yeah, that's all the news we got this week, folks. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to get you primed up and ready for some Thor Love and Thunder with a couple great guests.
I'm stoked for this.
I'm pretty stoked. I'm pretty psyched out of my mind about this one. hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. As always, like we said, please go ahead, share with some friends, go ahead, subscribe, leave a review, all sorts of things.
We will also have a quick recap of Stranger Things seasons 1 through 4 to what we have so far to get you ready for July 1st. And Gore and Jane.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, hopsnews.beer, search Hops News. That's where you're able to find us. We really appreciate you checking us out. Stick around. We have a lot of fun things planned. And as always, cheers. May the force be with you.
This has been a Hops News production. You can find Hops News on all your favorite podcasts and social media platforms at Hops News. Cheers.